right, so I kind of wanted to get on here today and talk about just something that's kind of just been on my mind for a while now, but even more so these days because, as you know, uh, Olympus is pretty much falling. But and I say that just from like a media, which is like the one of the biggest markets in the American market at least. And it's just especially like when it comes to black people, black culture, black entertainment space and things like that. So yeah, so like my thoughts is really about like how, over the last couple years, there's been a lot of exposure with what's been happening in the industry, especially like with a lot of like the big names, right? So like Bill Cosby and R. Kelly and now Diddy and I heard now Jay-Z, is starting to be the topic of discussion now. And yeah, so like I'm just so on the one hand, so there's two things that I kind of want to touch on here. One, this pretty much is I think a lot of people, a lot of them like who are in power, like a lot of their dirt is starting to come to light. And rightfully so, because I do think now we're in this space where there's like a lot of people who are becoming more aware and they're becoming more like just hip to the bullshit that they've been feeding us for so long. And yeah, like people need to be accountable for their actions. I mean, there's so many people that have had trauma, put on them, from children and older. Like, I mean, there's so many people that's being like taken advantage of, in the space and for so long. I really say like since the birth of, Hollywood and, this entertainment industry that we know of today, like it's just been manipulation, all this glitz and glam that they've been showing us like, hey, this is the life, this is the quote unquote American dream, as far as like being a celebrity and then being known and loved by so many different people. Like we're starting to see that all of that ranking and that power, it came at a cost. Yeah, and it's just it's sickening, but it's even that like in particular when you're black, because all the names that's being thrown out here, like they all came from where we came from. I don't know about, Drake. Drake is another one too, but Drake is from Canada. So his situation might be a little bit different, but I mean, I don't know. I don't think he was like born with a silver spoon in his mouth either, but like, they all came from, the same background that we do. So like, I'm just wondering like, one, like, were they always like this? Like, how do they become that way? Because nobody's born being a predator or an assaulter or a swindler or anything like that. They become that way. So I always like wonder like what actions, like what circumstances happen for people to do stuff like that, to the point where they're actually ruining people's lives and destroying people's childhoods and fucking over people for their money. Like, how do you sleep knowing that? And I don't know. It's just it's crazy, but it is a time. I do think that it's been time, but there has to be changes. There really has to be changes that goes on, especially in media, especially in the space of social media. I feel like social media as a whole has really played a big role into this, because back then, when they were really like out there and they were doing all the wickedness, news wasn't spreading as much. I mean, there was still news, going around, but now everybody pretty much has a voice, especially like on TikTok. So I feel like there's several reasons why TikTok is like controversial on like a infrastructure level, like American infrastructure and the government and stuff like that, because there's a lot of things that should be exposed. But I think in the meantime, also, this is the other part, whoever's in control, I don't know if it's the government. I know that there's a ladder and there's high people in high places that we probably never even heard of, but whoever is in control, they are pretty much using this to their advantage, right? And I think that's what I want people to kind of keep in mind, like on a high level, how what the cause and effects of all of this are. And I say that to say that, a lot of our, when I say our, I mean Black people, like a lot of like, our representation as far as like prestige and like who's setting like the bar, like they are pretty much being plucked one by one, and while yes, what they do have to answer to their crimes, and they have to be held accountable, and we can't have people like that really being the representation of us, because we're not just all murderers and rapists and sexual assaulters and all of that other stuff. We should have the right people, out there that are actually like moving with intention and actually being able to speak out about us and stuff like that. But, at the same time, I'm looking at this just from like a high level. And my theory, I wholeheartedly believe that this is facts, but, I'm just going to say my theory, is that whoever's in charge, they want this to happen, and it's a few reasons. One is control, one is influence, but the other thing is power, and money. And just on a high level, this country is pretty much broke. They haven't said it, but like we're haven't announced that we're in a recession or anything. But we kind of we're not like as financially secure as we used to be. And not only that, we don't have as much power as we used to have. I mean, we still have power, of course, but like as far as like power and control and influence, like it is dwindling, right? And you can see it, how that trickles down, just from high up all the way down to the everyday common day man, where businesses are slicing and dicing and laying people off and making budget cuts and all this other stuff, because it's just a lot. It's just a lot of disruption that's happening with tech and media and wars and all this other stuff. So just on a high level, because there is so much shifting that's going around, and they are pretty much gearing up for this new era that we're about to step into. My theory is that they really are just making cuts, like even though yes, this is a music industry and the entertainment space, like these people are still running corporations, so like what our companies are doing, the places that we work at are doing, they're pretty much doing the same thing, but they're just doing it in a different way, especially as entertainers. Of course, they really gonna like turn it up like a notch, and they have to actually put it into like they have to put it out in the masses, right? So it's a little bit different, but at its core, it's still the same, is that this infrastructure is pretty much trimming the fat, and Black people, we're always going to be at the forefront of things like this, because we're perfect human shields, to them. And I think a lot of them forgot that too. Like, I think, that, they did their dirt, and I don't know if they just forgot, that they are still Black at the end of the day. And, if they have to choose between them and us, they are pretty much going to choose us, like to be the human shield, for them. And this infrastructure is really just every man for himself. So, one by one, they are cutting people down, and pretty much turning, everyone on them, and it's rightfully so, but that's pretty much what they're doing. They're making cuts, and yeah, I mean, it's going to be impacting them as well. I mean, yeah, they have a lot of people on their roster, but they are pretty much just as stressed as the rest of the country that's happening. So like, yeah, like I feel like it's more about power moves and power plays, and and it's all strategic too. Like I know some people know that, but there are some people that's really just kind of moving with it, and they're in their feelings and stuff like that. But like all of this is very much intentional. I also feel like there are certain people that they allowed to get in power because they had them in their back pocket. So while Diddy and Jay-Z and R. Kelly and all these other people, they were multi-talented and everything like that, there are other multi-talented people that are in that space, and they didn't get the same level of power. And I think it's partly because they really didn't have them in their back pocket. They either wasn't going to comply, to it, or they had nothing on them. So like there's certain people that they allow to climb the ranks because they know that they're going to be useful at some point, and I feel like that's pretty much what's happening. And a lot of it, that's coming out here is making sense, especially like us as kids. There are certain people that we looked up to, and now we're starting to connect the dots, like there's been stories about like Rihanna and Aaliyah and how all of these stars, even Usher, they were young and they were our faves, but we never really wonder like how they got there or why they got to where they are. And they were pretty much like not that much of an age gap from where we are, even though they were probably put out there a little bit older than what they were. So we didn't ask ourselves like we're the parents and all that other stuff, but now as adults, like we're asking these questions, and when things are being revealed, it's all starting to make sense. But yeah, I don't know exactly where I'm kind of going with this, but like I'm just saying that we are in this era of awakening. A lot of people are being exposed, for their crimes, and whether or not it was you had like some sort of greater good or anything like that, you still did what you did, and you are still impacting like a lot of people. Even if it is one person, that person is connected to so many other people, and like and especially for kids, like it's kind of crazy how people can just use their money and they're surrounded by people who just thinks this is okay. But this just kind of proves the point that whole industry over there, like all of them, they pretty much have like this mentality, and not necessarily like the talent in itself. Like I feel like I talked about this in another video where in the gaming industry, or even like when it comes to like animation and stuff like that, there's like this this dirty little secret, it's not even a secret, but it's just, a lot of the corporations, like the big corporations, they pretty much treat the artist, the creative, like they're disposable, and they use these manipulation tactics because they know that they're very passionate about what they do. And, if you're passionate about it, there is a lot that you're willing to endure, for it. And in the music space and in the film space and entertainment space, it's the same thing. Like they play on these people's passions, and get them in these compromising, uncomfortable situations, and just kind of wave like this little prize, dangle this prize in front of their face and say, you can have it all if you just step in my direction, and sometimes they'll just chew them up and spit them right back out. And especially for the younger people who really don't even know any better, and it's like it's just crazy like how people can just go ahead and just do that. And then some of these people got kids, like with Diddy, like Diddy has daughters, like, and like how is it like, but then it goes to show too, because like some of these parents, like if they had like kids stars and kids with talent, they were selling their kids off to people and they thought it was okay, and now they're turning around and it's just a repeated cycle. It has to stop. It has to stop. Like it just has to stop. But while this is stopping, I do also want people to keep in mind about like, whoever that they are taking down, these are smaller pieces to a bigger part of a pie, okay? And we have to keep our foot on their necks. We have to keep digging, and we have to keep getting to, all of these people who are really just who are just still out there. And I know it's a lot of them that are just still out there, but it's really up to the people, at the end of the day, to decide, who goes and who stays. And they know this, and all of this is really just a power move. They're just restructuring the infrastructure. They're making, on a high level, they're making their own budget cuts. These guys like R. Kelly and Jay-Z and even Drake, like they come with a lot of power, they come with a lot of influence, they have a lot of money, and they have a lot of equity, and it's a control thing. You know, it's all a power move. And, you know, considering where this country is and where it's heading to, a lot of people are just kind of operating from a scarcity mindset. And on top of that, they pretty much are looking over their shoulder too, because they know they got skeletons in their closet. You know, so it's every man for themselves. And of course, you know, with black people, like, you can't get too comfortable because you are pretty much going to be the human shield in all of this. Like, and you really shouldn't even forget that. And you know, you can see now, like if you're gonna go into this space, you really have to be like, you really have to go in there with integrity, and and be very intentional about what it is that you're saying and doing. And if people in power don't want to give you that, then you know, you have to decide, you know, what you stand by, really. Like, what do you want, you know, more? I don't think that you should ever have to sacrifice yourself or anybody that you love, you know, especially kids. Like, that's one thing I never understood. Like, you know, I don't even have kids, but like, I'm not about to let my child go into the hands of somebody that I don't even know, I just met, you know, and without my supervision. Like, my mom, she never did that. Like, not even with other family members, you know, unless she knew them. But like, I don't know, I just feel like that's kind of careless on my part. But yeah, like, just you know, just be very intentional. Go in there and protect yourself, and understand, like, all things come at a cost. You know, there are some people that are just nice and they are, you know, really just want to help and stuff like that. But you know, as you climb up, like, all things really do come at a cost, and you just have to use your own discernment. But then for the people who are also in the space, like, yeah, you can, you know, it's not nothing wrong with you being with in emotions, but just keep it at a high level what is happening, you know, here. And this is the time for us to watch and learn, and really start, you know, holding these people like accountable, so that way we know where the patterns are and we know where to stop it. Because yeah, this is really like disappointing, especially like for all the people that are in a space who held a lot of power. These are the people that we looked up to, and you know, they've done things, and it's just like, you know, it's disappointing. It's disappointing, you know. But yeah, I mean, that's all I kind of really wanted to get here and talk about. I probably have more to get off my chest, but I kind of just want to throw that out there. Like, it's very disappointing that this has been happening, especially in our space, because we've pretty much been oppressed, you know, since the beginning. And I would think, like, when you get in this space, that you would actually want to bring, you know, your people up for the better. But it's like, you bring people in here and then you put trauma on them, and then you expect that your outcome is going to be favorable. How does that even work? Like, how can your situation be favorable when you fucked over everybody else around you? You're surrounded by people that you pretty much fucked over, or you're just like using them as a puppet, you know? And now when situations like this happen, like, you know, like, what did you expect? But like, yeah, I don't know. Just some people just don't really think about stuff like that, or maybe they have and they just got knee deep into it. But y'all have to be like, yeah. Yeah, we just and I feel like, in a way too, this is also like a good thing too, because now that there are people that are just coming down and we're on the outside looking in, this just creates more opportunity for new people to take its place, and for new people to do things right, you know. And you know, whoever's in control, they're gonna be fighting tooth and nail, of course. You know, there's gonna be things out there, but you know, there are some people that still maintain their integrity, and it's usually going to be harder. You know, things might not be easy to come by, but at least you still have your dignity. At least you know that, you know, you've been good to people, and you'll get rewarded, you know, for that. You know, that saying, all that glitters isn't gold, and this certainly isn't gold at all, you know. Yeah, so that's all I kind of wanted to get in here and talk about. So until next time.